All right, let's just jump right in. Today we're going on a journey, but not to some far-off land. This one is all internal. We're talking about digging into the stories we've all been handed, and more importantly, how we can start to rewrite our own scripts when they just don't feel right anymore.
And it really all starts with this one simple but really powerful question. Have you ever just had that feeling, that nagging sense in the back of your mind that the story you've been sold, about the world, about your country, maybe even about your own family, it just doesn't quite add up?
It's that gut instinct, isn't it? That feeling that something in the whole system is fundamentally offline. The source material we're exploring puts it perfectly. It's like being given an instruction manual for life that's just full of typos and has whole chapters ripped out. And that feeling right there, that's our starting point. That's where this journey of reconstruction has to begin.
Okay, so if we're going to try and figure out what's gone offline, where do we even begin? Well, we have to start by looking at the invisible architecture all around us, what the source we're looking at calls man-made constructs.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Things like laws, money, national borders, even the way we tell history, they all feel so permanent, so solid, right? Almost like gravity. But they're not. Every single one of them was built by people. And here's the kicker. If something was built by people, it can be unbuilt. It can be taken apart, examined, and maybe, just maybe, put back together in a better way.
So let's make this real. The source pulls a great example from local history in Missouri. The official story is the one we all know, a clean, simple tale of brave pioneers and relentless progress. But just beneath that shiny surface is a forgotten truth, a much, much messier and more traumatic history that kind of gets erased from the national bedtime story.
And you can see just how deep this forgotten history runs in one single startling number: 0. Seriously. In the 1860 presidential election, Abraham Lincoln received 0 votes in Clay County. Now, that's not just politics. That's a sign of a community so deeply wounded by conflict that it had completely and totally unplugged from the national story.
So where did that level of defiance come from? It came from a deep, unhealed wound. See, the forgotten truth is that for years, we're talking years before the American Civil War even started, a different, unbelievably brutal civil war called Bleeding Kansas was already raging right there on the Missouri-Kansas border. And all that messy, complex, violent history, poof, it just gets wiped clean for the simpler, official version.
The source material has an absolutely brilliant term for this process: Disneyfication. And it's no coincidence that Walt Disney, the absolute master of the family-friendly narrative, drew inspiration from his childhood in Missouri. He built a global empire by taking the messy truth of the world and polishing it into a sanitized, sellable fantasy.
Now, this sanitizing process, it doesn't just happen with history. It happens with culture and commerce, too. The source points out a parallel process it calls Walmartification, named, again, for another Missouri native, Sam Walton. It's the same basic idea, replacing something unique and local with a standardized, hyper-efficient, easily marketable product.
So let's pivot now from the big national picture down to the personal. Because these same dynamics of sanitizing and forgetting, they don't just happen in history books. They happen inside our own families. It's like we all inherit our own kind of forgotten source code.
And this is where things can get incredibly complex. We inherit all these conflicting codes. Maybe your family's blueprint for love is all tangled up with stories of abuse or cheating. Or maybe you inherited a model of extreme loyalty that's actually rooted in a deep fear of betrayal. These forgotten stories, this generational baggage, they become all these conflicting programs running in your head, creating static and making it almost impossible to get a clear signal.
So, if we're all running on this messy, conflicting, and often forgotten code, what are we supposed to do? Well, the source argues that the solution is to stop being just a character in the story and to start becoming its author.
And a key tool for becoming that author is something called negative notation. This is basically the official, conventional meaning of a word or a label, the one that's usually designed to limit you. But if you look closer, there's often a more powerful, more empowering truth hidden right inside.
For instance, let's take the word impossible. The official notation on that is crystal clear. Not possible. It's a dead end, a brick wall.
That is the story the system wants to sell you.
But what happens if we just shift our perspective a little? If we look at that word just a little differently? Suddenly, a completely different message emerges. That limitation just vanishes, and in its place is this incredible declaration of potential. I'm possible.
And this isn't just some clever one-off word game. It's a repeatable mindset. It's about looking for the hidden potential inside every negative label. Sometimes you find it just by reframing a word, like insane becoming insane. Sometimes you can find it by literally reversing it, like evil becoming live. The whole point is to break out of the box they're trying to put you in.
So this all leads to a practical 4-step model for reconstruction. It starts with step 1, trusting that gut feeling that something's offline. Step 2, you have to dig into your forgotten source code. Step 3, you learn to see the hidden patterns that connect all the stories. And finally, step 4, you earn the right to become the author, to reconstruct your own narrative based on a much more complete picture of reality. And this brings us right to the ultimate takeaway from this whole explainer. After all the deconstruction, after all the digging, you arrive at a powerful new understanding of your own agency.
The source poses this huge central question. With all of these confusing constructs and sanitized stories, could the entire point be to make everything so complicated that you simply forget that you were the creator all along?
Which leaves us with one final question. And this one is for you. What forgotten histories in your family, in your hometown, are buried deep down in your personal source code? And what do you think might happen when you finally decide to pick up a shovel and start digging?